Fight.
So, let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077. Honestly, I think this was actually a pretty good game. Now, I'm not excusing its serious issues like bugs and glitches, but I want to talk about the good aspects of Cyberpunk 2077 instead of focusing on just the bad. When we think of the end of 2020 or even the beginning of 2021, Cyberpunk 2077 and all the talk regarding it comes to our mind as a highlight. The CD Projekt Red open world first-person shooter game with dystopian elements was one of the most awaited games of the last 5-6 years with ease. All the hype and advertisement of its unique premise and features contribute greatly to the disappointment of several people at the finished product. It wasn't really the disappointment of a hyped game turning out to be terrible, but that of a game not being as outstanding as it could have been. The premise of the game still remains one of the most extraordinary in at least the last few decades of gaming, but some of the gameplay mechanics and elements of the story felt rather underwhelming to those who even loved the game. The common complaint, though, was mostly about the buggy nature of the game, which even the vast number of patches haven't yet completely fixed. In my opinion, Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that excels in ideas, but could have been much better with the execution. But it would be criminal to ignore all the great features and innovations that Cyberpunk 2077 brought. We shouldn't forget that it wasn't a game that garnered disappointment due to being bad, but one that people thought could have been executed quite better in the surface level aspect. Cyberpunk 2077 features one of the most imaginative visual styles, highly innovative gameplay features, and a dazzling explorable world, and a storyline that features all the thrill and investments that you need. So while the cons of Cyberpunk 2077 have been quite a hot topic since December 2020, the pros kind of get taken for granted. In this video, I'll give a quick rundown on all the positive aspects of the game that are worth mentioning. So, the story I think is pretty solid. The story provides you the same end for the prologue regardless of the path you choose. As a corporal, you face the end of your counterintelligence job due to a job gone wrong. As a nomad, you leave your clan to venture alone in Night City, and as a street kid, you're nearly arrested for helping a friend. But here what kinda lies the issues with the game. Whatever you pick at the beginning doesn't matter. The origin you pick is just a dialogue selection and nothing more. And not only that, but I would say maybe 80% of the choices you make in the game really don't matter. And that's one of the issues I do have with this game's story. Regardless though, I think the story is very well written, and it's not a story about saving the world, but more of a personal one, just about trying to survive. And some of the story moments are just so well done. Like the climax of the heist mission was so good. The build up, the music, everything about it kept me on the edge of my seat. Now for the characters, I love the characters in this game. Each of the diverse cast of characters you meet almost feel like real people, and their bond with V feels very genuine. Like, Jackie Wells was a cool character that was V's partner at the beginning of the game, and even though he dies in the very beginning of it, I kind of felt that loss. The other characters you meet in the game have their own quest line, which ranges from trying to destroy a J-pop girl band with Johnny's former bandmate Carrie to helping Judy deal with the aftermath of Evelyn's suicide, and trying to make a safer place for sex workers. I thought they were all great, but my favorite character and questline was definitely with Pan Am. Something about roaming around in the Badlands and causing chaos was very fun, and the Badlands themselves were pretty cool, because it kind of had a different vibe than Night City. Bonding with some of these characters can lead to a romance with a very cringe sex scene. There's about, I think, 4 different characters you can romance. I think one of the best characters in the game is V's conscience, Johnny Silverhand, the rockstar, terrorist, and legend of Night City. Johnny is the anti-hero that you'd hate to love or vice versa. From the moment he enters as a parasite into your brain, he becomes quite central to the story. One of the things I like so much about Johnny is how well he and V play off each other. I like how at the beginning of the game Johnny wants to kill V and escape with his body, but throughout their journey they eventually have a bond with Johnny trying to help V the best he can. I also love how much a jerk Johnny is, and a lot of his reactions to V's choices are pretty funny. When it comes to the endings in Cyberpunk are pretty great. I don't want to get into too many spoilers for each of them, but I think a lot of the endings all felt different and were worth replaying through. My personal favorite is definitely the secret ending. It felt like such a badass to raid Arasaka Tower with Johnny and destroying everything in your path. I felt like it was a very satisfying conclusion compared to all the other ones. But that's just my personal opinion. The Pan Am ending's also pretty good as well. So the main protagonist, V, is a insert yourself type character, but has a lot of personality, which is thanks to the voice acting. Both male and female V have very great voice actors. They give so much personality to the character, although if I were to be honest, I prefer female V more. I just think that there's more emotion put into it, while male V comes off as a typical tough guy with a very grungy voice. Not saying male V is bad, but I just think female V is better. You can also customize V's appearance, including his or her genitals for some reason. I won't show that on here for obvious reasons, but you do have that option. Aside from customizing V's characteristics, you can also customize your fashion and shop for different type of clothing. And the cool thing is, since you can upgrade the clothing, it means you can pretty much wear whatever armor you want. The clothing in this game is pretty much the armor. I would recommend sticking with epic and legendary items, to be honest though. I wish this game was third person just so you can show off V's appearance more, but you know, you can always ride a motorcycle, which is always in third person. When it comes to the visuals, Night City exists probably the best and most imaginative aspects of the game. Night City is one of the most impressively designed fictional cities. There exists this eerie, real aura in the city's design that makes its manifestation seem not that far from happening. The graphics for Cyberpunk can range from bad on a current-gen console to good on a high-end PC. Actually, I would say Cyberpunk looks gorgeous if you have a 380 graphics card, and on PC you can have like 4K 60 frame per second and ray tracing, although you may need a 390 for best performance. For now at least, either way, it looks pretty good on PC, and that's actually what I captured this on. Now, I know the current gen consoles don't look as good and have a lot of issues running, so I would just play this on PC if you can, or possibly just wait for the next gen version assuming they actually release that this year. The last thing I want to talk about is the gameplay. To perfectly enjoy combat is to upgrade your attributes more and more. It kind of reminds me of Fallout, where you upgrade your main attributes along with gaining new perks. With a fair number of combat upgrades, combat becomes one of the most enjoyable aspects of the game. It's ideal to level up and to buy upgrades at the Ripper Dock for amazing upgrades and modifications for V, like the Mantis Blades, but the build I liked personally was katanas and handguns. I gotta say, melee combat, mainly katanas, are just so much fun, and you can be really OP, especially if you get to the Satori in the heist mission. It's like the secret katana that you have to get while you're escaping. It's actually kind of hard to find at first, or actually most people miss it because you're like trying to escape. But anyways, overall I do enjoy the combat. There's a lot of options. Like, I personally don't like the hacking or building up intelligence, but if you want to be more stealthy and whatnot, you have that option, which I think is pretty great. Like, you have a lot of different options to play the game how you want. Like, you can be a hacker, or just focus on guns and other things. Like I said, I prefer melee. The other cool thing is there's a ton of loot in this game. So many guns, melee weapons, grenades, whatnot. It's pretty cool that there's a lot of loot. Like, when you do your gigs and side quests, you'll find a ton of them. Like the clothing though, I'd really only recommend upgrading like epic and legendaries, but overall it's still, your preference. The fact that you can craft and upgrade them makes them not get too pointless when you find something stronger, because you can just upgrade them to be, a little bit stronger. So that's always a pretty cool option. So aside from your main missions, you actually have side missions and gigs as well. The side missions in the game range from actual missions that feel like story quests, or generic go kill this person or go rescue this person, which are the gigs. The gigs are honestly kind of boring and only worth doing for experience points or money. Now, the actual side missions are great. They're actually pretty engaging and interesting. My favorite is definitely the second river mission, where you investigate what happened to his nephew. I gotta say, this mission is very disturbing, to say the least. I was very engaged with this mission, and it's a great example of how this game actually, having some good missions. Another side mission I enjoyed was the Lizzie Wizzy one, mostly because of how batshit she turns at the end. Another thing I like about this game's side mission is that they are not all combat related. Like, one of them have you setting up for Jackie's funeral with his mom, which I thought was a good closing to his character. There's also like side missions that evolve around racing through Night City, which is kind of fun. There's a few side quests that are kind of like, I don't know, I want to say longer, or they have like a lot of different quests in them. Like, the Beat the Brat side quest has you going on to fight different fighters in different areas of the game, which I thought was pretty cool until you make it to the last one, which is just cheap as hell. But aside from the gigs, I think doing all the side missions, or at least most of them, are kind of worth it, just because, like I said, they're pretty good, and a lot of them actually have pretty nice rewards as well. So at the end of the day, Cyberpunk2077 is not a bad game. It's easy to focus on the glitches and bugs, but underneath all that jank is a very solid RPG that I don't think should be missed. Hopefully one day this game will run much better so people can, give it a second chance. As it is now, even though it has a lot of glitches and whatnot, I still think it's a pretty good game to play. I mean, if you can look past that. There's real no excuse for the way the game came out. Like, that was pretty bad. But I feel like even despite that, I feel like it should get a second chance. Like, I think people should actually, sit down and play the game, because personally, I had a lot of fun with it, and there's like a lot of good things about it. So yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe and check this game out.